好，那让我们再次掌声的欢迎陈品先生。
上面这是今天的简报连接跟 QR code. So there's a link to today's slide and a QR code of Dojo. Yeah, you can take time to scan it or link it. So let's move on. Today I'm going to talk about design pattern of building a profitable DApp, because as a DApp developer, I do suffering about how to make revenue by writing smart contract or stuff like that. And we found out that it's not easy to make a business model on top of blockchain application, because we need to make some adjustment for open source, and that may cost to different kind of design. So, I'm Ping. I'm the founder and CEO of Palace, and I'm a DApp developer and a co-organizer of Taipei Ethereum Meetup. So today I'm not going to talk too much about which certain business model that I'm using. I'll talk more about the pattern and the mindset of how to try to monetize by building dApps. So we'll consider that building some application on top of Ethereum is very easy because most of the smart contracts are open source, and the platform itself are providing the interoperability and composability. So you don't need to build every single brick of your application. You can leverage all of the existing app to build your service on top of it because they are autonomous and open source. But we do suffer from how to monetize that kind of application, since bootstrapping and value capturing and try to build continuous and sustainable revenue. Yeah, that's quite difficult. So there's a dilemma of building a profitable smart contract, since though we believe that blockchain is a trust machine, but you still need to somehow publish your source code and verify it, especially on maybe Etherscan or some blockchain explorer. But when you do that, then anyone can easily clone your smart contract source code. So if you want to build any kind of in-protocol fee or kind of application fee, then it will eventually lead to a fork of your DApp, that someone will going to provide a free version of your application. So you'll eventually find that it's not possible to monetize that kind of application. So you'll either give up or you'll turn that into a side project. So there's different community facing similar problem. They are the open source community. This guy is the how we call it, the father of free software. His name is Richard Stallman. So we are facing the similar situation about how to both open source your code and make money. So there's different proposals. There are three. The first one will be try to claim that you're providing a public good. Since smart contract on Ethereum can be used by other people or other applications, so it's very common and easy to claim that you are providing that kind of public good or tools. So if you add you give up the chance to make money and you say that you are building infrastructure for other people, then there's a big chance that you can ask for donations, like by grant or by some bounties, or like Scott from Geekcoin in this morning just give a speech about how to make streaming revenue by registering Geekcoin and ask for some grant. Yeah, like me myself, we just received a grant from Ethereum Foundation. So it's a kind of a reasonable way to earn some money from it. And the second one is quite trivial. You just make all the profit before you actually go into the development. Because when the work is done, when you publish all your stuff, then anyone can easily take it away from you. So the different approach is that you earn it before you build it. So that's why in 2017, there's an ICO frenzy. Lots of DApp companies are making ICOs. And the third one, simply don't open source. Is that possible? I'll say yes, it is definitely possible because I just built one. So in the 2 months, in the previous month, I built a DeFi gadget called EasyDAI. It's closed source, means that both the front end and the smart contract are not published to any platform. So it looks like this. Basically, it's a combination of compound finance and DEXs. So in brief, we are aggregating 3 different DEXs, Uniswap, KyberSwap, and ETH2DAI, and compound finance. We are providing an easy-to-use platform for laymen to access this kind of DeFi stuff. So you can see there's a horizon line, and stuff above are basically compound finance, showing how's the interest rate and your deposits balance. And stuff below are an aggregation of 3 different DEXs. We find the best exchange rate DEX for user when they are trying to deposit their Ether to compound. So the situation is, for laymen, they don't have they don't have Ethereum wallet. They need to download one and generate an account for themselves, and they probably will deposit ETH from their centralized exchange. Yeah. So for this kind of user, they need about 3 to 5 transactions to finish the whole round, the whole trip. From you need to wrap your Ether and then approve that Ether to the DEX and then swap the DEX. Then again, you need to approve those DAI to compound and then finally deposit. But we just built some smart contract as a middleware. We'll accept users' ETH and then automatically find the best price of DEX to swap for them and then deposit it to compound finance and then finally return the CDAI for our users. But you might be curious that how people can trust this kind of gadget if they don't even see the source code. The answer is yes, they just will. So in my opinion, I'm the one that providing a better user experience. So it's kind of product that provide value. So it's okay for me to charge a small fee by doing so. So to protect my interests, of course, I'm not going to publish my source code and all the things that I made. So yeah, it works. So the second one, and the most famous one, is making an ICO before building the stuff. So for most companies that are doing this kind of things, they'll give you a big dream that what they are going to build on blockchain, and then try to sell you something like a future or like a voucher of their application in the future. So for this kind of application, they are facing a tough question is that you can make fundraising, and then you can hire some engineer or do some marketing stuff. But eventually, can you really capture the value is the question. Like, take banker as an example. When it comes out, people think it is a promising project because it's using a fancy finance model, like a SDR model, to provide liquidity between different kind of tokens. So it raised a large amount of fund, is like 135 million in ETH. But this project eventually does not return a good interest to their investor because there's a competition between a very similar project called Uniswap. They are using exactly the same formula, the same model to deal with the liquidity and exchange, the fixed product formula. But there are a big difference is that banker itself raise fund and issue a token called banker token as the reserve of their exchange. But Uniswap didn't do that. Uniswap simply used ETH as their base coin to be the reserve. And it turns out that Uniswap is acquiring more user than banker. And for bankers investor, their price fall like about 90% from their ICO price. So it's quite ironic, but that's the truth. It's not possible to promise that when you build a usable or maybe a extraordinary good stuff, then you're earn interest. That's not promised. So the problem is that when you try to add a token to your protocol or to your application, you will cause friction. And when you try to collect fee, when you want to charge your user, they always have a chance to fork your project to provide a free version of it. So you need to gain a strong enough network effect before your project gets forked. So some of you might have heard of the project called Pull Together. That project used to be closed sourced for like about 2 weeks or something like that. So it's quite reasonable because when that project got published, when their source code got opened, then any single person can clone their project. So they need to gain some deposit before they open source their source code. Otherwise, they will just get cloned and get nothing back to their protocol. So yeah, that's an issue. So we can compare 3 different ICO projects to see which will give you a better return. So I'll say the KNC, the Kyber Network token, is quite neutral because it's a good fundraising, and at least at this time, it's not forked yet, and it still works at a good function. But Radar Network, on the other hand, is really a bad ICO, and I'll think MakerDAO is the one making the best work because adding a token to their protocol is even better than not. So take Kyber Network as an example. They do token sale for fundraising, so they can have enough resource to hire developer, to do some marketing work, to do some promotions, and so on. And investors that bought their token KNC will get a reasonable expectation of earning interest from their application, because they are providing a portion of their transaction fee to buy back their token and burn it. So theoretically, the token KNC will become more valuable when times go on. And why Kyber network is not forked rather than like Banker is because it is providing some off-chain resources. For example, their front end and their technical support. And also, since Kyber network do a lot of effort on aggregating different kind of liquidity provider, like they have aggregate market maker, and they have aggregate DEXs like Oasis DEX and Uniswap. So they have an enormous liquidity pool that is not easy to be beaten. Yeah, so they are collecting that kind of liquidity to make their network effect strong enough to be forked. But on the other hand, Raiden Network also made an ICO before, but it turns out to be a tragedy, because when it comes to a layer 2 solution, a payment channel, we'll think its mission is to provide a better user experience and make transaction more efficient. But since they really need fund to make their project sustainable, so they did an ICO. But when you want to do that kind of fundraising, you need to claim, you need to promise the investor that they will get something back. So they are forced to create kind of utility of their token. But that's not an easy way. So they said that, okay, whoever want to open a channel, open a Raiden network channel, no matter you are opening ETH channel or DAI channel or whatever token channel, you'll be charged in Raiden token. So no matter what kind of asset you are depositing to the Raiden network, you need to pay Raiden instead of that kind of token. So yeah, that just simply messed up everything, because the main goal of building a layer 2 solution like Raiden network is to provide a better user experience and to make it more frictionless for laymen to use blockchain. But by charging a totally different kind of token, it just screwed up everything. So I'll say Kyber Network's token is a neutral one. I mean, adding a token to its model is neutral, and Raiden Network is below average, is spoiling the experience of using that protocol. And MakerDAO will be the best example of adding token to their protocol, because their token, their MKR token, is a government token and a dividend sharing token. So of course it is valuable, it's like a security. And since the issuance of DAI getting greater and they have an interest rate, and they will get a sustainable and continuous revenue. And that makes the token MKR reasonable. And furthermore, there are some concern of the MakerDAO system is that the owner, or say the operator of the MakerDAO system, have privilege to modify different kind of parameter, like the interest rate and the collateral factor, and they can decide which oracle to be choose. So yeah, that's kind of a centralized crisis of adding such an operator to the system. But we know that the market cap of MKR token is like about 5 times greater than DApp itself. So in game theory, we'll consider that MKR holders don't have enough incentive to do evil, because if they try to attack DApp holder to gain interest, the price of MKR token will collapse and they will lose even more. So in this kind of approach, we'll say having a token into MakerDAO's protocol, or say the application, is even better. It makes the whole system more trustworthy than there's no token. So like compound finance have similar structure to MakerDAO. They are criticized recently because some people just post tweet to say that if the operator of compound finance go evil, they might steal every single penny from all the user of compound finance. That's quite risky. So if compound have similar approach, like maybe they have a government token, then it is possible that can mitigate the risk. Yeah. So in conclusion, I'll say it is not easy for we DApp developer to create a reasonable and sustainable business model, because we are in charge to be transparent, to open source everything, like opening our door and we welcome everyone to take away our asset. So it's a quite challenging work to build a sustainable business model. And rather than passively waiting for some sugar daddy to fund your project, it's always easier and more make you more confident by building making your project that have the ability to create interest by itself. So you need to think more about how to make interest alignment, how to let both your investor and your customer, or say your user, to get a balance. So by doing so, you'll be able to build a valuable and profitable project. So that's it. So you can find me at GitHub and Telegram and Artistic Online, or you can email me. So is there any questions?
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the audience?
Can you tell us in a high level how do you achieve the closed source?
When we talk about open source, usually it means I publish my smart contracts source code onto platform like Etherscan. So simply, I didn't do that. So no one is possible to just clone my source code. Of course, they can build something that have similar functionality, but they need to do it rather than just copy it.
Oh, so you just put a bytecode on it?
Yeah, when you deploy contract, of course the bytecode is on chain.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions?
Hi, thanks for the talk. So in a closed source business model, as you proposed it, how would you achieve additional confidence in the security of what you have built to your users. Right? You want to avoid that people come out to you and say, there's a system that is intransparent to me. I should put my ether there. Why would I do that if I don't have confidence that it can get lost? What would you tell those users?
There's 2 points. The first one is the contract itself is a non-custodial contract, which means when people deposit ETH, they will get back their compound DApp immediately. So I'm not taking their fund. And the second one is for customers that currently is using my application, they are laymen. They exactly don't care about what is open source and transparency. So what I'm losing is I'm losing the chance to get compose or interoperate with other DApp. But for the existing user, the layman that used to use centralized exchange rather than DEX, I'm the very first application that they are using. So yeah, they don't value this kind of open source spirit.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions from the audience?
So recently there is an interesting profitable DApp called Together Pool on Ethereum, and basically it's everyone can invest the pool and they will invest into the compound, and all the passive income will become a lottery, and everyone who invested will get some randomness to draw the lottery. So do you think this is a success business model for DApp?
You mean the DApp pool together?
Together, yes.
Yeah. So that's a good example because the source code itself is simple and there's not so much network event in the very start time. So their strategy is they don't publish their source code. They do that when there's enough deposit in their smart contract. So, because like put together, for example, they need more amount of deposit to generate attractive price for the winner. So when they open source their smart contract code, they already have a certain amount of deposit. So at that moment, if you try to fork their project, you will be less attractive since you don't have any deposit yet. So that's the difference.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. 让我们再次感谢欢迎下一位讲者。那下一位讲者要用买杯咖啡的价钱与时间成立一间美国公司，让我们欢迎 Han。